(7:00), call the meeting to order. I'm Grace Lesperance, Cascade Township Supervisor. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Nordhook.
Here.
Trustee McDonald.
Here.
Supervisor Lesperance.
Here.
Treasurer Corsange. Here. Trustee Kessel.
Here.
Trustee Shipley.
Present.
And Clerk Slater here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Article 3, approval of tonight's agenda. We do have one possible change in that unfinished business. The first item deals with the potential acquisition of real property, which means that this board can go into closed session if it wants to, if it desires to talk about negotiating for that. So if we do that, now would be the time to approve the agenda with the addition of that amendment.
Shipley approves or makes a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay.
Support.
It's a motion by Trustee Shipley, supported by Trustee McDonald, to approve the agenda with the addition of a closed session added to the first item of business, unfinished business. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Having no presentations tonight, this will be the first session for public comments. Now is the time to comment on anything on tonight's agenda not scheduled for a public hearing. So that would be the potential acquisition of the F&F lease, which is commonly known as Tuffy, the corner of Cascade and Thornapple River Drive. Also the selection of a contractor for the outdoor area around the library, which will be known as Friendship Park. And also the proposed agreement with the county for ARPA funds, $3 million for PFAS remediation. So now would be the time to comment on those three items. After we're done conducting business, you can comment on anything on the agenda or not. So welcome and thank you.
Good evening, Scott Rissy, 7238 Cascade Road. I just wanted to comment on the Tuffy Muffler site briefly. I know that before there was some talk about the possibility of shortening the term from, I think it was 8 years to 7. And then the alternative, I think that has been floating around, is buying out the term altogether. I would ask you guys to consider the possibility. Obviously, I think I'm in the majority of people that we don't want to, we would love to see that building redeveloped, but that site redeveloped. But at the same time, the rent coming in is nice to offset the debt service. And when I think about the doctor's office behind the building that is still sitting, my fear is that if we were to buy out the lease, I don't want to have to look at an empty building that I know we're paying a mortgage on for 2 or 3 years while we come up with a plan to redesign the park and figure out how we're going to pay for that. I would rather see the building with income coming in while we decide what we're going to do with the site and how we're going to develop it. And I realize that that might take a little longer to get to that point. Maybe that's 7 years out instead of 3, but or whatever it would take. But I feel that it's probably worth, you guys have all the information, so you can make the decision. But from what I've seen, I would think it'd be better to grab the funding right now, at least for the shorter term that they had offered. But maybe you can negotiate something better. So just my thoughts. I don't want to see a big empty building set for 3 or 4 years before it gets torn down, or a site that's wiped clean and we're waiting to decide how to. I'd like to see Tassel Park get all developed as a whole, and updated and refreshed. And obviously we have to have the resources to pay for that too. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Hello, Scott Van Salken with 2570 Orange. First off, I'm in total support of buying out the lease on Tuffy and moving whatever village projects forward that we can. But I do have a suggestion regarding township-owned property, especially in the village area. Back in September 2015, Cascade bought the properties at 2800 and 2804 Thornapple River Drive for a combined total of $270,000. The total area is 0.533 acres. The goal was for a pedestrian-friendly destination according to the master plan and the justification of purchasing those parcels during that meeting. Almost 3 years later, during the June 13, 2018 meeting, the board accepted bids for demolition of the home at 2800 Thornapple River Drive. Demolition cost $34,851. Total spent on those properties by the township was $304,851. This comes up with Mr. Rissy regarding funding. Since September 2015, numerous buildings located between Cascade Road and those parcels owned by the township have come up for sale with no action by the township. I found these records looking at the assessing portion of the township's website. 2844 Thornapple River Drive, the village bike shop, was sold and purchased by another entity for $533,500 on September 22nd, 2022. Ongoing construction is happening there. I even sent an email to the board regarding purchasing it. No response. 2842 Thornapple River Drive, the art gallery, which is now Riva Salon, was sold on January 11th, 2019 for $200,000. The new owners have since added on and renovated that structure. And then 2808 Thornapple River Drive, a private residence, was sold on May 20th, 2019 for $340,000. Why did the township not buy this when it had the chance? It is literally the adjacent parcel right next to the township's property. If the township bought it, the total land area of those three parcels combined would be about 1 acre. If the plan is to make the area walkable, the township is sitting on parcels 540 feet away from Cascade Road. Now, how much land does the township need in the village area? You have all of Tassel Park, the Tuffy building, the little house along the river behind Tuffy, Veterans Park, and then the 1.86 acres at 2977 White Cliff. You know, I don't know what the formal name of that park is yet. So I'm all for the township buying out the remainder of the lease for Tuffy, but put the lots up for sale. You know, put them up for the exact amount of $304,851. You know,
30 seconds.
you might get, hey, you didn't start the clock for Mr. Rissy. So, yeah, will they sell? Who knows, unless they're on the market. You know, you can even put up a for sale by owner sign if you don't want to pay real estate fees. Cascade Township owns 59 different parcels of land. A lot of it is parkland or cemeteries and along the river along the river. So perhaps you can sell those. 3500 Thornapple River Drive, corner of Thornapple and Tanglewood. You know, you guys bought it for foreclosure at $1,700. That's 0.57 acres. You own 4570 Whitneyville. That's a 1.737 acre lot surrounded by homes. It's not connected to any cemetery or anything. Why do we own this? There's a parcel on Layton, which apparently is for drainage, but the township doesn't really take care of it according to the neighbors. They just went there. I went there yesterday and checked it out. And apparently somebody had come down and whacked down about 6 feet of the weeds in front of right along the road.
Mr. Van Stokel,
Yeah.
you're making really good points, but can you try to?
I'm just saying we have a lot of extra property that maybe could be utilized, you know, sell at least that Whitneyville lot, you know, and if we're worried about funding, use some of the land that we have that isn't connected really to anything to fund, you know, the purchase of this Tuffy project and or to redo the Tassel Park how we want to. So that's my idea and or suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm too far away.
Right, that's me. Yes.
Any other comments, either in person or virtually? Okay, we will come back later on in the meeting. Approval of tonight's consent agenda, Article 6.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Shipley supports.
It's a motion by trustee Kessel, approved by trustee Shipley to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Financial actions, Article 7. Is there a motion or discussion?
I have one question. I may have missed it. In getting these now, have we paid any funds for the fire station lately? And would they appear on here or on these reports?
I can answer that. Yes, there have been payments on the fire station. If they are actually on this invoice list, I would have to verify.
I don't think there's any.
When going through it, I just have one page, but I went through it and I didn't see anything. So I wondered who was approving those disbursements on the fire station.
I can go back and pull the invoices that were paid for the fire station and forward that to the full board and let you know who had signed off on those.
Okay.
I have
Thanks.
not signed on off any of those since I've been here.
Are we done with Sable? That's the last one.
The Sabo invoices, were sitting. Yes, these are the last ones.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's an older one, right?
It is older.
Further discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll support.
It's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by trustee McDonald to approve tonight's financial actions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 8, unfinished business. Item 069-2023, consider approval of a resolution to terminate the lease and buy out F&F Service Center, commonly known as Tuffy.
I'll vote to go into close.
Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Shipley to enter closed session to discuss the potential sale or, purchase of real property. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Shipley,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes.
treasurer Corstange,
Yes.
trustee McDonald.
Yes.
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
clerk Slater, yes, supervisor Lesbrunch.
Yes. We are now in closed session. Sorry about the interruption. Usually we put them at the end, but on this one, we will come back after we're done discussing it. Yep. That's exactly what I was doing.
Thanks for reminding me. Yeah.
But he's still. Clear. That's right. And then it's the other thing, so all of it going in the same direction, you know. I don't want to. Hey. Yeah. Yeah. It's a 3 year difference to figure it out. Hi, Mom, how are you doing? Hey, I don't know whether you're like, Gina, outside today, but traffic. She just picked up Jordan. Of course, the all things to go in the hole and saw and I run out of the whole I think it's like halfway, or something like that for troubled adults. And he ran out and Regina was following a big truck and he was kind of ran right in front of the truck. His truck hit him. Literally splattered this guy all over the road. And Regina had his finger, who was an witness to it. And Jordan is with her. It was so bad. She was in the girl. Oh, I said, I can love that. Love it. And I think maybe more years we crying. Some of this that you had to go out farm to they saw it and I can learn about it. But so many things go for sale. Thank God. And then Regina was the only one that did the truck driver. Trying to find a few very nice. And he got out, and then I think he realized that he was dead. There was nothing she could do. So I just wanted to call you. Well, we looked at the 6 o'clock. It did happen about 3:30 today. Yeah, and there was nothing on it. No, I knew this, and I looked at the website. She wanted, you know, when they lived there. He wanted to go in. It was her first day to be on the job. She's been there for training. But we wanted to go. We're trying to. Sounds like stop. Well, I think over by things, sometimes water, like really things calm down, we're reading, maybe we'll be here. Yeah, I did do one. Yeah, I mean, this a new device. Well, since what happened in history, yeah, it's just it's the world's in a whirlpool. Well, so anyway, okay, I don't know whether you want to call her. I just thought I'd tell you. Well, Regina saw it happen. Jordan looked up right yesterday. Okay, right there, yeah. And Zach can't be very thing. So anyway, I just want I'll show you later. We don't, I don't know. We not have any. I know. We want to go into the property on number square. Right now, I'm okay. Buying extra property all the way across there. So we don't have a. And you mean what? Down to the down. And you have to park the car. Between you have the people, you have to have. Buildings. All right. Yeah. 5 feet are coming from. They. And. All. We don't have. So you actually. Consider, well, they don't make expensive. You know, they make. Yeah. I think it's a great idea. Oh, you were. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know. I don't see this coming. Yes. I saw it forever. Right. That's what I go from a lot, right? So. And that's why it is our own beauty of experimenting at a Zoom. Yeah, you look at that. They were paying up for surveying. And we were out there yesterday too. I was volunteering at the park. They had surveyors. Trying to find out that's. Usually guys actually do the work. I don't know, there's so many. Yeah, it wasn't great. And then it was picture. Nobody is.
So when we go up.
But
so I think maybe for this.
The chief is got a price.
I
So I don't know. Did the Downtown Development Association buy that property or make the association?
Oh, that.
It's not.
They don't.
It was not. Downtown. With it. And there's one sort of.
Because
They must be like up on the small. They've got some township areas up down to the first parking lot. There's a couple down, yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
The house out. And then, we're not taking down cities. Come to meetings or.
There's ones by Kenny, our old Kenny here that's hanging out.
Update things to the
River
board.
there to shut down. What's that gonna be?
If I can answer.
This is the.
Question for the.
This is where I board is it's changed bad.
You're answering. I mean, I'm really
Yeah.
excited about it. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the bids came in.
Our son.
It's the budget that we had out.
I was there, it's over yesterday. We're able to go on once first.
No, it's to have that on paper.
Yeah, it's gonna be cleared up.
I mean, had it, yeah, we don't hear it. Black, we vote them all and all of this. Which is done.
Yeah.
I would say, why not? But, it's like, we don't have. But,
No, I actually really was not about that.
and my estimate.
I never around, my wife took it over.
Things associated with that, so that's. I hesitate that I'm gonna be reading.
This happened, 3:30 this afternoon.
Right.
Coming back, to the river, to where she's at the road.
Oh,
Right there on the flat lake.
Oh,
It's some guy getting around. The whole, yeah, yeah. Man, right out the road. She was.
adding to the education of the space.
Yeah.
And other ones that keep getting home with hysterical and there, the true aware, true section and go where it's from. It's all close.
My granddaughter. She was texting her mom all the time saying about this career at work. My wife, she's taking it. My wife's training. Yes, well, it's like adult foster.
I'm sure you don't. I don't think that. Yeah. You know, awesome. It's regular.
Years ago, we saw them chasing somebody else. And you can just all say that they didn't have a dog. Yeah. And so they came running to the line. It wasn't stop. It was, I think it was a good point of saving from me. Just check the garage. People are talking. I went right.
The art and shape of the film.
Where it turns to Grand River. You go down, oh, yeah, right like flat. So it's an Ione County. It's okay, Fran, in the line, right on the county line, where the hair goes, but where the hair, okay. Yeah. I've been explaining about the truck traffic. There must have not been a certain mall.
Well, that's also part of this. Great.
An airport, they're all over the airport. Well, I think there's construction. That's good. In trucks that come out. They roll. So it's covered. Because you're on your way to the airport and all the stuff that's going on. So they're taking Cascade Road and then back to right. Because they don't want to get out of that stress. Yeah, or at least it was. They're coming down and flying through the drive the truck, got back in there and get the Cascade Road, going back up. It's right stage, double line, yeah, the double dump trucks.
Right.
And I'm trying to deliver time, their shoulder.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
And the part that there's not, it's ground is getting more already, the roads starting to crack. And so they're gonna have to make roads there.
Oh, I agree.
That's right.
You've got to, even
Sounds like it should be on.
Yeah, they can have no talks.
They should have.
I'm saying.
I mean, you can have some truck.
So no truck sign there.
Well,
All these signs there, they're forced.
Yeah, and so.
Yeah, but even about the speed, just the weight of, you're saying double act, double trailer and all this.
Right.
I mean, if you have no truck route on that road, your truck shouldn't route.
Right.
It's so twisty and tight.
Right.
But again,
It's actually breaking.
yeah.
But they got what's the version?
I would definitely use for. To worse than any. Regular.
Yeah. 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 Probably person rate. Check our. And. You can't have. Screaming. I'm not hearing about President versus the other thing is like, I don't switch to what they like. My wife, and he's coming. You know, you're trying to. I work. The other thing is, most regular police officers will pull over something. Prior to being else. And I mean, it's a totally different ticket than trying to do it, where I've done it and some. So you know, see commercial motor guys out there, and even if they start weighing scales, right? I mean, those fines are not cheap. Right? You know, super shitty that are right. Reason and those kind of things. Those signs for no compression rate. They're gonna fund another route. Good. Because that saves them a lot of money, right? Well, or you can just also do the no trucks.
That's fine.
But then again, we should get to enforce.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out. Those curves right there, there's no shoulder. And right at the edge of the road, it falls off. Yeah. They should have. Yeah. Right. And you know what, if there's no oncoming traffic, then they don't need to go off the road in first grade. Because it's going like the line. But there's kind of crap. They got it. Yeah. Go around the spirit.
They really should be. Yeah.
That shouldn't be a trouble. No, listen, we replace them, there was there. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. More.
I started reading.
I think. Oh, yeah. I already said. Tempted sand mine. You're going all the next to the wall. If you drive into it, you know, they sign it. You know, when I was there driving. Yeah. Because it's going on. They're lucky to go out into the world. Through small communities. It's. Yeah, I don't think I was. It really, yeah. But it was too late. Well, it's a drop on it. I was definitely never have. Well, we had that. I see, you know, the problem, well, yeah, the traffic just. It's pretty late or something. Yeah. Right. No, very close session. So this is pretty much they're making this decision right now. They're buying or they're not. The city. It's been redevelopment right back in. Put on a presentation saying, where's your village? There's no village. And I just wouldn't be in the meetings. And then gentlemen. What are the goals here? Where it intersects with the verge. Because there is a shoulder area where and for the person, half of this, we do.
You're saying they're going through the twisty turny? Oh, yeah. That's the one. Okay, Seven River Drive between Cascade Road and Orange. Yeah. Orange. We're talking. It's a all day. And they're hugging the left lane. Yeah, to make a right turn because they're so long and they gotta make that big wide swing. So the county's gonna pay the price for us. The road is already cracking and they redid that road not that long. It's. No, if you go off the road. If a car goes off the road where it's cracking and it'll actually rip the sidewall. I heard. It's that deep. So if you go off and you try and get back, if you go off, you're better off to stay off until the gravel comes up and you can get back on. If you try and get back on, maybe you're gonna rip the sidewall with a tire. Right, ride it out. Okay.
So people. Oh.
Dear.
You know.
Wow. When we have both take off at the end of the time, what we with, when we got, right? Okay, here you go. What's that? Like put in? Yeah. This, no, you put, all right, well, you touch like, yeah, you talking, like, a little damage. Oh, really? Commercial. Friend of mine is under in Cascade. Deteriorating. Yeah.
We had, if you like, here, I came up with it, it was like 60.
There's so many. Go back. People didn't stand my.
Yeah.
See them right there. But it was going sand mines, where is it? Lower. To the airport, the airport workers, they're heavy duty construction. And they're the EIMP, that's the way it gives. Really gives you another, right. Do you? You're gonna pull back the road and just on one side during the day, during daytime, during daytime hours. Right. To avoid. Traffic. Yeah. At least I checked, there was. Like, if they complaining or unexpected, they get on it about. They get right out there. Oh, next, come back. Exactly. That's the thing. Road damage is. I might have been a second, just as many trucks going down, you're going around. I think they're coming with that. There's so many of them. It's on the stairs. Okay.
No. I heard you about how.
You did? Yep. No, listen, I follow a lot of, have a lot of alternative routes, but there's so many. When I stand.
Awesome. I'm afraid if we don't take, if we don't take this opportunity, we're gonna be sorry.
At the rate I'm going,
It's fine.
my lifestyle choices.
If you were to spend. We can come back. It's up to you.
Is there a motion to exit closed session?
Ripley makes a motion to exit closed session.
Support.
So motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Kessel. To end closed session and re-enter open session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there a motion on item number 085-2020? Nope, sorry, 069-2023.
I move to proceed potentially with the buyout with legal counsel review and actions as directed in closed session.
Shipley supports that motion.
That's a motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Shipley. To approve directing council and staff to move forward as stated in closed session. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
trustee McDonald.
Yes.
Trustee Corstange.
Yes.
Trustee Kessel,
Yes.
trustee Shipley,
Yes.
clerk Slater, yes, Supervisor Lesbrunz.
Yes. Motion carried. You'll have to stay tuned to what that motion is. New business, Article 9, 085-2023. Approval of a contractor for the outdoor space around the library, which will be called Friendship Park. Manager Smith?
Thank you. So this project has been, I guess, months and months in the making. I would like to ask that the amendment or the item actually be amended to give a not to exceed amount of $556,108 pending legal review of the contract. That was omitted from the actual agenda item. And this is very exciting because since the inception of this design and it was put into different phases, there has been funding that has come forward from the DDA to allow all 4 phases to happen concurrently. And so the Friendship Park can actually become a reality sooner than later. So we're in full support of that. But along the ways, there was also through the process, unfortunately, there was a couple of missteps. So we will be having another agenda item coming back before the board in regards to the architect and the construction manager before you. We hope to have that at the very next meeting. So there will be additional agenda items in regards to this process. As far as the details of the design of the park and how that's going to work, I'm going to turn it over to Melanie and Wes and Lulu to give a brief synopsis of what's happening.
Hello, board.
Hello.
It's Lulu Brown, Regional Manager for the Cascade and Caledonia Library. I'm excited to be before you, but I'm really excited to be with both of them. So I love this project. I love what we do for our residents. But as we start getting further into the details, some of it is outside of my expertise. So Melanie is going to be here to kind of help further this project going forward. But I am excited about Harder and Warner. I know that they have created the outdoor garden for the Caledonia Library. It has stood the test of time. It's been there for about 10 years. Also, they're one of the few companies that actually could execute this on the timeline that we wanted to have it ready. We wanted residents to be able to enjoy it during the summer. This past summer, we had more than 60,000 people walk into our doors to enjoy our Summer Wonder programming, to make sure that kids beat the summer reading slump as well. So we really want to make sure that residents have it. And with that, I'll turn it over to the people who are park experts.
I'll just go quickly. Like Lulu said, we are in a transition. When I first started, this was an idea brought together by the library staff to the DDA and to all of you. It has since morphed and changed after a couple of meetings ago into an official park. And as such, Manager Smith and I feel that we need to have an actual township employee managing it from within the township. Again, we are so grateful for Ms. Brown and all of her hard work to get it as far as it has up to this point. And we're still going to work together as a team moving forward. But from here on out, I have a steep learning curve, as we learned today. But once I'm through that, I hope that we'll be able to present this to you in many other forms. So I'm going to turn it over to Wes.
Good evening. Great to see everybody again. I'm happy to be here and very thankful to the team that we've been working on to get to this point so far. There's a lot that has brought us to this point, so I'll kind of hit the main points and let you ask any questions that you may have. Generally, the design that you had seen earlier in the year has not changed significantly in its overall character, but except for the details that we've gotten developed into the construction document package. And that's what went out to 7 different contractors, of which we got 3 bids back. The portion of the project that was put out to bid was everything except for the pavilion and the surrounding grounds of the pavilion, because instead of going with a more prefab structure, which we were thinking about originally, we decided to go with something that was more custom, unique to the space. And so we hired an architect to help us get to that point. So that portion of the project wasn't put out to bid, but it was be known to the contractors that would be added into the scope in a future phase, then put out to a builder to bid on that phase as well. So of the 3 bids that we received, Harder and Warner was the middle bid, but they were very close to the other bid, who was a very strong contender. I felt like both gave really nice proposals, but like I said, Harder and Warner's was a little bit cheaper. They also can meet the project deadlines that we are, that was made that very favorable proposal as well. And they're ready to hit the ground running as soon as we get approval and everything is in place for them to get started. So in addition to the project that Lulu has mentioned, where she's had successful experiences, we work very closely with Harder and Warner on a number of projects. And I was happy to see where they came in, because they're someone that I can fully stand behind and would really like to work with. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. And I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
How soon, what's the timeline if everything goes as planned?
So let's say we get approval tonight, then we're going to have a meeting with them in the next week or 2. I mean, as soon as we can, get the project team together and review all the details of their bid and of the project, and make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed, and then they'd be able to get started this fall. So I would think maybe early to mid-November, if we had everything in place for them to do so. They've said that they can do a lot of the excavation, groundwork, and get things ready to go for the spring, so that they can do cleanup work and start pouring concrete as soon as we're able to. That all does depend a little bit on the pavilion design and when we can get bids for that, because obviously that is hand in glove in terms of when things can go forward. But we're hopeful that they can get started on their portion of it in the next few weeks, or within a month or so.
I have a question. Just looking through the line items from the proposal. This does not include the actual native plantings, though, is that correct?
No, that is a separate item, because that was something that we're going to help coordinate with Cascade and for the project, because that's kind of what our niche is. And that's one thing that Harder and Warner's worked with us on a lot in the past too. Sometimes contractors don't like pulling the plants out of their scope. So, but no, that doesn't include the plantings for the project in here directly.
Okay, good, because I don't know if it's good or not, but I noticed it wasn't in there, and I also know that's one of the big things that we've talked about with the native plants is the 2 to 5 year maintenance.
Yep.
And you had talked about that in the previously. So I just want to make sure that whoever's doing that, that's a part of that, because I did not see any of that within this quote.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
And Lulu, didn't you say one time, I might be off base, but isn't the Friends gonna get involved in part of this?
Yeah, so not only did they commit the $230,000, but they're fully prepared to pay for the maintenance for the first couple of years. Wes has given us a quote before. They're fully aware of it. I meet with them on Monday to go over all of the bills they need to cut.
So when Jade talked about approval up to 500, is that right, Jade? Is that outside in addition to the Friends money, or is that the Friends would be part of that?
The Friends are, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
So we're just considering the total cost of the project, so I
Yep.
still know that the township needs that check from the DDA.
Okay,
And I also need to get a check from the Friends directly to the township. I also have a $30,000 donation that I got from a personal donation that KDL will be cutting a check to the township too. So we've included that with just the overall.
okay, so the 500 for sure will come from the DDA?
Yes, so I talked with Melanie extensively about this today, and I think this was part of the overall confusion, is that we're going to run this as one large project with multiple funding mechanisms that are going to come into it. So we're going to house the project underneath the parks budget, and then from there, we will have revenue that's actually going to come into the township that will be earmarked for this particular project. So we will collect from the Friends, from the private donors, and also from the DDA, and it'll sit in that fund. And then from there, it'll just have one funding mechanism. That way, it's really easy to track that way.
Okay.
And then along the way, if we have more private donors that want to actually donate, then we have a place for them to do that as well.
The pavilion would be a great donation
So,
item.
yeah, so just to kind of wrap that up, 'cause I'm not sure that I answered the whole question. So yes, the 556, anything we bring before you is actually going to be project total. So between this agenda item and a couple more that will be coming before you, it's going to be part of one large project total. And from there, we'll have the funding mechanisms to actually pay that amount.
But you would like the approval tonight to be up to?
Correct, because that's what was bid on by Harder Warner for this particular phase of the project, which the 556,108. And was talking with Wes, that's probably the maximum it would be. There is actually some going to be some further discussion. It may come in lower than that. That's why we'd like to do the not to exceed amount.
Fantastic.
So this funding is not coming out of the general fund then, correct?
It will be cut out of the general fund and you'll see it on the invoices, but you will also have the backing of the revenue line items coming in on the other side of it.
I'm very much aware of not necessarily this municipality, but other municipalities that are taking to the cleaners with little extras, a contingency money, and be aware, I'm gonna be watching for that. Don't come back and say, oh, golly gee whiz, we forgot that we got to put down a substructure underneath of the pavilion, because I'm not gonna buy that at all. So the money that you're approved for tonight better be top line, and I'm trusting Jade and you guys to watch for that.
Yep,
A
we
lot
will.
of nodding heads, and I know how municipalities get shafted, so that's all I have to say.
Should we mention the RAP grant?
Oh, yes. How could we not?
Did you hear about that?
I
I-
was screaming a little bit.
Sorry, I don't know. I got so lost.
You didn't, so then I thought, okay.
Yeah, so it was announced this week through the right place that we were awarded the $450,000 towards this project. I know Melanie and Lulu worked together. I believe Wes, this is before my time, so you guys should actually take the story and run with it, not me. But they put a lot of effort into applying for that grant, and we were awarded $450,000.
That was one of Melanie's first projects, and
Yeah.
Jessica Stein helped with that. As soon as you came on board, you didn't get to breathe. You just had to do that quick turnaround. And then Tim Rotz from the right place.
We're not that
Fantastic.
much, you know.
Great
Not that it changes your budget, it just changes where the money's coming
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, no worries.
And actually, there was supposed to be a press release coming out on that today, and I have not actually seen it yet, but we'll be having one coming out too to talk about that.
I'm just really excited because I remember coming in front of all of you saying that I do not plan to spend one penny of the money from the general fund on this. And I feel good that we've been able to honor the commitment that we found external donors to contribute to this project, not just to the project, but also to the first couple of years of maintenance too.
Mhm.
So thank you for this being entertaining.
Oh, thank you for working so hard
Thank you.
on it.
And this was really the Friends group, their baby.
But it is amazing that, again, Ms. Brown has, in her predecessor, assisted with this, but basically created a park and just handed it over to us, which is amazing.
You can do that anytime you want to. Yes.
Well, I move to approve the contract with Harder and Mortar as presented, not to exceed $556,108.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Kessel to approve the selection of Harder and Warner as the contractor for construction of Friendship Park, not to exceed $556,108. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great job, you guys.
Thanks.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Item 086-2023. Resolution to approve agreement with the Kent County to receive county ARPA funding, which would be used for PFAS remediation, specifically the extension of municipal water into the contaminated neighborhoods. We have our special counsel, Attorney Doug Van Essen, tonight. And it's my understanding that all the outstanding issues have been addressed and that the county has approved the agreement before us.
Yes, yes. Just a little context here. We have this overall arching agreement with the airport. There's the funding for the municipal water extension that Grand Rapids is working on through our retail contract. If there are cost overruns in that project, the airport has agreed to pay for those. However, one of the provisions in there was to try to stabilize and keep the commitments of the grant funding as they existed at the time we struck that deal. So we had an understanding that the township would do what it could to make sure Grand Rapids got that ARPA funding, the $3 million. If we couldn't, then we were reserving our right to sue the airport for that $3 million hole, and the airport was going to reserve its defenses. So that was kind of outside their commitment to pay for cost overruns. And they wanted that because they wanted to make sure that we continued to push Kent County into that ARPA funding. So we were expecting that Grand Rapids would complete that funding, would take that $3 million, put it in the mix, and we wouldn't have to be further involved. Unfortunately, Kent County demanded that both Grand Rapids and Cascade Charter Township indemnify it, not just for the project, which is a reasonable requirement of any ARPA funding. The ARPA grantee or any grantor doesn't want to get sued because they've given you money and you've done a project and now someone feels they've been hurt by the project, et cetera. That's a standard clause in any grant contract. But they wanted us, and they wanted Grand Rapids to indemnify them against any liability related to PFAS.
Not just Grand Rapids, or not just the county.
Yeah, exactly. They, and the airport, which, we've not released them. So, Grand Rapids ran for the hills at that point on the ARPA funding. They're out. They weren't going to come close to that. And we stepped back in and we said, we're simply not going to agree to that. That's a deal breaker. What we will do is pull the indemnification you have in your provider agreement out, and we will put it in a resolution that adopts an agreement between Kent County and Cascade Charter Township, but only has the standard indemnification language that you have with other vendors. Has nothing to do with the PFAS problem, generally has nothing to do with releasing the airport, period. because you're upsetting our deal with the airport by trying to stick your nose into that particular provision. We don't want it in the agreement because we don't want to argue with you whether it's satisfactory or not. We'll put it in our resolution and that'll be the end of it. We've had Foster Swift review that language, so it doesn't do anything more than a standard provider agreement would entail. We had a bump where it seemed like we were at an impasse. Kent County has now backed down and accepted our approach to how we're going to deal with that. So there's no release of Kent County from the PFAS problem. There's certainly no release at all from the airport. We have that tucked in the resolution that's before you that will approve their standard agreement minus any indemnification in their standard agreement, which is in front of you. But we also added language that expanded the scope of the project to include remediation, site remediation. So the upshot of this little wrinkle, I'm pleased to announce, I think puts us in a better position. Why? Because there's always some control if you get the money rather than Grand Rapids. In addition, we've included site remediation. And so that gives us leverage with Grand Rapids, our partner, which may have a different view of what remediates the community than we do. So we probably should hang on to some of those funds until we're satisfied with that end stage activity of the project, that it meets our community's needs. So the bottom line is, yes, we are now the recipient of the $3 million. Yes, we're going to get it. But I think all in all, that's a positive because we're agreeing to forward it to the project, but also that project has been redefined to include site remediation, which gives us some leverage to make sure that part of the project gets done well by our partner, Grand Rapids.
Restoration, right? Remediation, restoration.
Yeah, remediation or restoration of, I'm in this process with Plainfield right now. Someone lost a few trees. What's satisfactory? Sometimes, you don't need to replace them all, but you replace some and it looks better, but you work that out. And this gives us a little leverage to make sure our residents have the right to appeal to us if they need help with our big brother to, what is that, northwest there a little bit, Grand Rapids, which may have, as I said, a differing view of what brings the site back to what it should be. So with that, you have the agreement in front of you. It has the site restoration, remediation description in the project. If you approve the resolution I have in front of you, all you're agreeing to do is protect Kent County in the event someone sues them for something that happens during the project. Of course, Grand Rapids and whatever contractor Grand Rapids uses will be primarily responsible. We also have our governmental immunity. So that indemnification, it's hard for me to even imagine a situation where that's going to come back to haunt us. But that is a standard provision in our agreements. So I don't think there's anything unusual about that. And as we know, we want to collect this funding so that phase 2 is secured and we can move forward and get the second year of that project completed. Any questions?
Could you adjust what that 127,605,807 is in the agreement, the funding agreement? Whereas the county has allocated 127,605,807 to its SLFRF funds as general revenue loss.
Yeah, so Kent County had two ways of doing this. It could have required all ARPA recipients in the county, including now us as an ARPA provider, to meet all of the federal ARPA regulations. That's the standard approach. Alternatively, and I know this intimately because Ottawa did the same thing, it was possible to justify to the feds that the county itself had the $127 million worth of loss, and that all of this money could go for that. That freed then the county, and Ottawa did the same thing, to give us the money subject only to this agreement and not to all the detailed ARPA regulations. So this, all that really means, trustee, is that this is Kent County's ARPA money,
Okay,
that it's sub-handing to us. Still has to qualify, but we're not subject to all those multiple ARPA regulations as a ARPA recipient directly between the United States federal government and Cascade Charter Township.
okay.
So
No negative effect at all.
no, it's a positive. It just means we're really taking Kent County's money that it's qualified for with the government, and we don't have to meet all those technical requirements. Otherwise, we would need a consultant.
Okay,
And Jade would need a consultant because the amount of paperwork you have to submit to the feds to justify that every expenditure, including all the site remediation we want to do, meets the ARPA standards. And there's a lot of consultants making a lot of money doing that work, but this simplifies it. So that's a positive.
okay. I said 127,000, I meant 127
Yeah,
million.
yeah.
Misspoke myself.
Our 3 million is part of that.
Okay.
I just have a question. We had discussed before too, the abandonment of residential wells. I think that was one of our topics. And I noticed, I don't remember the word we discussed, either potential abandonment or elective abandonment. That word was not put in here anywhere. So just clarification on that. Is this
Yeah.
mandating, the way this is written, that all wells be?
No, it's not. You know, one of the advantages to this settlement as opposed to Plainfield and Algoma is you're not enacting an ordinance. Okay. And there, in order to get the funding, Wolverine required through Eagle, and Eagle would prefer to see all those things, abandoned. But that's not the process that went through. We didn't have Eagle's support. We had to deal with the airport on our own. And so this is not a requirement. There will be some homeowners that want that add-on, right? They just want, they want to be done with it, not have it even a well, and they can qualify, they can get that funded, but that's not a requirement here.
I just wanted clarification
Yep.
because that was one thing that we.
It's really another advantage that we don't have to have an ordinance that actually obligates everyone to hook up and obligates the abandonment of those wells.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mhm.
any other questions?
Very thorough.
Yeah, good. I'm in, and I'm hopeful that, next year you don't have to call me up and say we need to call or Airport and get the rest of that funding. But if we do have an agreement now. It won't be a matter of having to sue and establish liability. They've committed that if the cost is reasonable, they're going to stand up and pay for it.
Shipley makes a motion to approve the provider agreement for Kent County water main extension.
Yes, really, I would just ask to clarify that you're approving the resolution I prepared, and that resolution approves that agreement.
Correct.
All right, perfect.
Clarification as stated by our council.
And I continue to support.
That's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Kessel, to approve the proposed resolution approving the agreement with Kent County as stated. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Kessel,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Shipley,
Yes.
treasurer Correspondence,
Yes.
trustee Nordhook.
Yes.
Clerk Slater, yes. Supervisor Lesperance.
Yes. Thank you, Attorney Van Essen. Good work on that. Article 11, public comments. Now's the time to comment on anything on the agenda or not. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Ken Vandercock, 7200 Layton. This restoration money that you're talking about, is any of that going to go into the river? Because we have a great big tile that the airport, all their sand washed all down and it made a big delta down there. I can't even kayak through there. Are they just going to leave that? There's people who have houses on there who have had it dredged out on their own expenses. This is airport expense caused. Are we going to get reimbursed for this, or is nothing's going to happen on this? They're just going to let them slide.
This that we talked about tonight does not cover any cleanup or environmental.
This restoration on,
Nope, that's just to restore after the water extension. But the Attorney General filed suit, what was it, a month or so ago now, and that would cover what you're speaking about, all the environmental contamination and
are
cleanup.
they going to push for it at all or nothing?
They sued the airport for that.
To dredge out all the sand that got washed in there?
Don't have specifics. We just know that we as a township don't have the funds or capacity to take on the environmental cleanup issues, which are so important and huge. And we're thankful that the Attorney General's office is pursuing that. But we don't have any details.
So in other words, nothing's going to happen.
No, in other words, the state literally sued
The
the
state,
airport.
Eagle's going to get involved?
Eagle already has been involved. And then when it comes to, they close their case, they transfer it to the Attorney General's office. Enforcement. It's now an enforcement issue.
Okay. How
So the
about-
township is not the appropriate platform for this. This would be the state. It's promising, but again, we don't know. I don't have any details.
Okay.
I'm with you. I agree with you. I think everyone in this room agrees with you.
All right. I was just wondering, he's talking about restoration money and I was thinking some of that could go down in there, but that's entirely different. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bujak, welcome.
Walter Bujak, 6639 Thornapple River Drive, your Kent County District 21 Commissioner. I'm glad to see you approve this resolution 086 today. I think it's a good thing. That's not why I'm here to comment. While you were in closed session, one of the residents here brought to my attention an issue that's ongoing here in Cascade Township that I did feel that I could get involved with. There are double bottom sand trucks going from Cascade Road to Thornhills using Thornapple River Drive, evidently carrying sand to the airport from Timpson mining operation. And my guess would be they're trying to avoid the traffic on I-96 coming down Cascade Road and cutting through Thornapple River Drive. And that certainly is not a dedicated truck route and has been causing damage to Thornapple River Drive and is also a safety concern. So on your behalf, I filed a report with the Kent County Road Commission, and hopefully you'll see some action here by the Kent County Road Commission to stop that practice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, Kenneth Carey, 2929 Thornapple River Drive. It's kind of ironic. I ran into Mr. Jujak and we were in closed session. It worked out great. I think Scott Van Solcom also filed a complaint also. It's kind of ironic. I wanted to talk about that traffic tonight, and at 3:30 this afternoon, I got a hysterical call from my wife. She was being detained by the Ionia Sheriff's Department as the only witness to a fatality on Cascade Road. A truck on right where Cascade Road goes to Grand River. A gentleman came running out of a adult care facility and ran out into the road and got hit by a truck and killed right in front of her. And, these trucks are traveling at a high rate. This gentleman driving the truck did nothing wrong. But these big trucks on Thornapple River Drive are a severe safety threat to our community. The section of road that's falling apart on Thornapple River Drive basically has no shoulder at all, and that's why the road's starting to crumble. And I followed a lot of these trucks one afternoon. I spent quite a bit of time counting the trucks coming out of Timpson mining operation. And in a 30-minute time period, 27 trucks came out of there, double bottom trucks heading this way. And the last one that I followed went directly past my house and then on over to the airport. Apparently there's two areas of the airport that are under construction right now. One would be on the northwest corner, the smaller runways, and I believe it's the end of the south runway also. So those trucks, and I followed some of the other ones that went through other various residential streets in our community. And it seems like they're telling these guys to alternate their routes, but there's so many of them that they're overlapping all these roads. And I do believe it's from the construction on 96 because it's bumper to bumper traffic. And that would be the direct route from the mining operation to the airport. I mean, so anyway, I was glad to run into both of these gentlemen tonight, and hopefully we can get that taken care of. And you'll probably see on the news tomorrow morning about the fatality. My wife was a basket case. Nobody else saw it, so she had to stay, and my granddaughter was with her, and it was horrible. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Manager comments?
Thank you, Supervisor. Just a couple of things. You see that Mr. Scott Rissey's in the audience today, along with I want to thank him and Jeff Carpenter and his crew. They gave me a tour along the river today, so that was a nice perspective from on the water to see what we have and see the asset. So I want to thank them for that. That was really nice to see that portion of the river and what an asset we have. We did announce earlier tonight that we are receiving the RAP grant for $450,000. I was at a meeting this morning in East Grand Rapids, put on by Right Place, sorry. And there is going to be another round of that in 2024. So we will make sure that we find a project to apply for additional funding. The pool of money is going to be a lot smaller this time, but we still will put our best foot forward and find something, especially with what we want to do in the village area and the possible acquisition of Tuffy. We could probably come up with something that would be really attractive for a grant. We're actively working on the 2024 budget. I hope to have the first peak of the budget to the Personnel and Finance Committee next week, and then bring it to the board, hopefully the week after that, for a study session, and hopefully get that wrapped up here by December. And then I just want to remind everybody that the fire station open house will be November 2nd at 5 o'clock. We had a little bit of a scare. We had no power to the facility until Monday, but we got on the horn with consumers and put the pressure on. So they had a large crew there Monday morning and got permanent power hooked up to the building. So they are now working around the clock to get us up and running so we can vacate our temporary facility and be in there by the end of the month. And Mr. Bojack, you will still be getting your invitation, I promise. We had to delay on them because we didn't know if we were going to have power and have it open on the 2nd or not, but that is coming. PFAS was talked about tonight. Happy to see that agreement is done. I will say we have a meeting next week on phase 2 of the Burger Goodwood planning for next year. So I'll have more details to share with everybody on that. And we're working with our engineering department on that as well. And that is all I have for this evening.
Or comments?
As always, thanks for coming down, sharing your observations and your desires. I know for the board's information, those who've been here for a while, the sediment in the bayous and the river has been a question for a long time. And that's a little bit different than the PFAS issue that we just took care of today, but I would like our engineer perhaps to take a look at the sediment going into the bayous, especially down there by Bergen, where it's semi-navigable in the past. And also for your information, and I think I told you this earlier, I-96, I went out Whitneyville Road, and I-96 was backed up, stopped as far as you could see towards the Ionia County line. And guess what? We had semis and heavy truck, car traffic coming down 52nd Street to Whitneyville Road. And you don't normally see those big freight trucks on 52nd Street.
Right.
So it's not just the dump trucks, it's a lot of extra traffic that I've noticed going both ways, because guess what? Alexa, find me an alternate route. And Alexa says, get off at Alden Nash, turn north to Cascade Road, go west on Cascade Road. So a lot of that extra traffic, and the fire chief has said that that's good for at least 5 calls a week out on I-96 in the construction zone, because people are driving distracted. So I wish I had a chunk of wood to knock on here. I think it'll be decreasing, but we still have to address issues like what Ken's got, well, on Thornapple River Drive. So that's all I have to say, other than thanks for being here. Some decisions made people happy today, some did not. Some are up to the lawyers to discuss. And my number remains unlisted. Ken's got it. I know that for a fact. That's all I have.
All that traffic is temporary though, remember, because the construction on 96 will end and the construction on those projects at the airport will end. So it doesn't justify an additional on-off ramp on any side of that.
It's not temporary. This has been a long time.
It's temporary as far as yes, it is, because yes, but I'm just saying we need to be cognizant of the fact that there's a desire for additional expressway ramps and more industrial development on that side. So
I just want to thank you, Doug, and you, Commissioner Bujak, for working on this agreement together. I don't know how much you had influence over the county, but we had, as Doug said and as mentioned before, some concerns, and I think we got a good conclusion to the issue that we were dealing with. And I want to thank you both for working so hard to get what we originally thought we had without having to work so hard. So thank you.
I told Ken I would ask this. Ken has attended a lot of township meetings over the years and come up with a lot of suggestions and ideas for us. He came to the zoning board of appeals meeting last night and he just said, hey, is there, I'd really like to attend the meetings, but is there any way, especially for board meetings, that the township can send out a proactive text message? And I don't know with our new communication director, if we could have an opt-in option for people, if they signed up and gave their number, that we could have an automated, opt-in like a lot of doctors' offices and dentists do, to remind people of a board meeting. So I don't know if that's feasible or not. I just said to Ken, I'd bring it up. We have a communications director, and to see if that's feasible at all. One other thing too, Ken, by the way, that a lot of people, maybe you don't have that, but if you did get into your calendar, personal calendar, if you've got an electronic one, and just put every second and fourth Wednesday and put those in as a repeat, then it'll automatically start sending you a notification. So just another alternative. I told Ken I'd at least bring it up.
if not text, maybe email. We'll figure something. We'll look into it.
People don't look at their emails like they do the text. And if you can opt in and opt out, it doesn't, it doesn't get people mad. And a lot of times I just plain forget. So.
Anyhow, thanks for the suggestion. We'll see.
Thank you. Further discussion or a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Shipley to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks for coming and thank you for waiting.